History tells us Rome wasn't weakened only by enemies at the gate. Some historians believe part of the damage came from something much closer, something built into the system itself, the pipes. And whether lead truly helped bring down an empire is almost besides the point, because the metaphor is powerful. A system can be poisoned by the very thing it trusts, and we do the exact same things to ourselves. Sometimes the thing ruining your peace is the very thing you think is protecting it. It's not toxic people. It's not bad luck. It's not some enemy raiding around the corner. It's the habits you dressed up as wisdom. The things you call being careful, being prepared, being realistic, being strong. Because when something hurts you from the outside, you notice it. When something hurts you from the inside, you often call it protection. And that is what makes self-sabotage so difficult to recognize. Because it rarely arrives looking like an enemy. It arrives looking like a bodyguard. So the real question is not, who is stealing your peace? The real question is, what have you mistaken for protection? Maybe you've done this before. You open a text message. You read it. You start typing. Then you stop. You'll answer later. You want to say the right thing. You want the timing to be right. You want to be in the right mood. A day passes. Then another. Now the message feels heavier than it did before. Not because anything changed, because you've been carrying it. If that feels too small, look at bigger things. The project you've been planning for 6 months. The application you almost finished. The business idea sitting in a notebook. The conversation you've rehearsed 100 times but never actually had. And every reason sounds responsible. You need more confidence, more information, a better plan, better timing. Nothing about it feels destructive. In fact, it feels intelligent. Until one day you look around and realize your life has become a collection of things you almost did. The dream stays on your to-do list. The conversation never happens. The life you want stays inside your head. And that's a different kind of pain. Not the pain of failure, the pain of standing still. Because deep down, you know you're capable of more. You know something's holding you back. The strange part is that it doesn't feel like an enemy. It feels like protection. Most people think that danger is failure, but often the real danger is never moving at all. And to understand how something protective can slowly become destructive, we have to look at how great systems, even empires, can be weakened by the very things they depend on. The Romans had a problem, something useful, something trusted, something woven into the very systems that made life work. Most people never questioned it. Most people never saw it as dangerous, and that's exactly what made it dangerous. Most people think poison should look obvious, but the most dangerous poison is the one already built into the system. That is why Rome matters here. Rome built roads, aqueducts, architecture, systems so advanced that part of them still stand 1,000 years later. And running through those parts of that world was something they trusted, lead. Now, historians don't believe lead alone destroyed Rome. History is never that simple, but the image is powerful because it reveals something uncomfortable. A system can be weakened by the very thing it depends on. Not because it looks dangerous, because it looks useful, familiar, necessary, built into the structure itself. And that's what some forms of self-sabotage feel like. Not a dramatic act of destruction, a slow poison disguised as protection. Most people think self-sabotage is the moment you destroy something, but often the real damage begins long before destruction. It begins when safety becomes the system. Psychologists describe self-sabotage as the behavior that interferes with long-term goals while providing short-term relief. But in plain English, it's when the thing helping you feel safe today quietly makes your life feel smaller tomorrow. That's why self-sabotage is so difficult to see. It doesn't feel like destruction. It feels like caution. It feels like preparation. It feels like waiting for the right moment. It feels like wisdom. And that's where the poison gets into the pipes. Most people think the problem is fear, but the real problem is the relief fear gives you when you obey it. And that is where the first pipe begins. Here's the strange thing. Avoidance works, at least at first. That's what makes it dangerous. You avoid the conversation. The discomfort disappears. You postpone the decision. The pressure eases. You delay the risk. Your anxiety drops. The relief is real. That's the head fake, because your brain interprets relief as success. but nothing was solved. The fear wasn't removed, it was rewarded, and rewarded behavior survived. Avoidance doesn't reduce fear, it preserves fear. Think about how many people spend years preparing for a life they never start, researching, planning, learning, watching, waiting, convinced they're moving forward because they've always moved around the thing but never through it. The dream stays on the list. The opportunity passes. The conversation never happens. The life they wanted stays trapped in possibility. Not because they weren't capable, because fear never had to prove itself wrong. And that's the hidden cost of avoidance. It shrinks your world while convincing you it's protecting you. Avoidance is the pipe most people recognize once it's named, but it's not the most dangerous pipe. The next one is worse because intelligent people are often proud of it. And that is where control enters the story. Control doesn't look like self-sabotage. Control looks responsible. Control looks mature. Control looks intelligent, which is exactly why it's so dangerous. Control says, if I can predict enough, I won't be surprised. If I can prepare enough, I won't fail. If I can manage enough variables, nothing can hurt me. And for a while, it works. You become organized, prepared, thoughtful, strategic. People compliment you for it. But eventually, life asks for something control cannot provide. Trust. Trust in uncertainty. Trust in people. Trust in yourself. Trust in outcomes you cannot guarantee. And that's where the anxious mind begins to build its empire. Walls, guards, watchtowers, defenses everywhere. Every vulnerability covered. Every possibility analyzed. Every risk examined until something strange happens. The kingdom becomes so protected that nobody can live inside it. The walls keep out danger, but they also keep life out. You stop taking risks. You stop saying what you really mean. You stop trusting people. You stop allowing yourself to be surprised. You stop allowing life to unfold naturally because everything has become a potential threat. That is the tragedy of control. It promises peace, but often delivers isolation. Most people think control is opposite of fear, but often control is fear with the plan. And underneath that plan is even a quieter trap, perfectionism. Some people never realize they're self-sabotaging at all because they call it ambition. That's the head fake. Perfectionism often looks impressive from the outside. Disciplined, driven, committed, high standards. But underneath perfectionism is usually something much simpler. Fear. Fear of judgment. Fear of exposure. Fear of finding out you're not as capable as you hoped. The perfectionist says, I'm not ready. I need more time. I need more information. I need a better version first. Sometimes that is true, but often perfectionism is just avoidance, wearing ambition's clothes. The person isn't preparing, they're hiding. The channel never launches. The book never gets written. The business never starts. The application never gets submitted. Not because the person lacks talent, because perfection created a moving finish line. And no matter how much progress they make, they never feel ready enough to begin. Perfectionism is one of the most expensive forms of self-sabotage because it steals years by convincing you it's helping. Most people think perfectionism is about standards, but sometimes it's about hiding from the imperfect attempts. And there is still one more pipe, one many people mistake for strength. Some people build walls around opportunities. Others build walls around people. And at first glance, those walls can look strong, independent, self-sufficient, unbothered. That's the illusion, because emotional distance is often protection, disguised as strength. Maybe you've heard people say, I don't need anyone. I keep my circle small. I move in silence. I handle things myself. Sometimes that's wisdom, but sometimes it's pain speaking. Pain that learned vulnerability comes with risk. Pain that learned trust can be expensive. Pain that learned disappointment hurts. The wall serves a purpose. It keeps pain out. But walls have a problem. They don't decide what gets blocked. It blocks everything. The wall that stops hurt also stops connection. The wall that prevents disappointment also prevents intimacy. The wall that protects you from being wounded also prevents you from being known. And eventually, loneliness starts wearing the mask of independence. That's when protection becomes poison, because now the thing that once kept you safe is preventing you from what you actually need: connection, belonging, the ability to be seen, Most people think distance keeps them safe from pain, but the deeper damage is that it also keeps you from being known. And when all these pipes start leaking at once, the entire system begins to fracture. Rome didn't collapse because of one problem. That's what makes the metaphor so useful. It was pressure from multiple directions: political instability, economic strain, outside threats, competing centers of power. The system didn't suddenly fail, it fragmented. And that's exactly what burnout feels like. Not collapse, fragmentation. Part of you wants change. Part of you wants safety. Part of you wants connection. Part of you wants to hide. Part of you wants the future. Part of you remains loyal to the fears that help you survive the past. And the longer these parts pull against each other, the more exhausted you become. Because now, you're not just dealing with life, you're negotiating with yourself. Not one battle, hundreds of small ones every day. And eventually, you run out of energy. Not because you're weak, because the system is carrying too much tension. Just like Rome didn't collapse overnight, our internal systems don't suddenly break, they fragment. And that fragmentation is what we eventually experience as burnout. Most people think burnout is just exhaustion, but sometimes burnout is the body trying to survive. Too many old protections at once. So the solution is not more shame, the solution is replacing the pipes. So how do you actually stop poisoning your own peace? You do not start by attacking yourself. You start by finding the pipe. Look at the place where your life keeps getting smaller. The conversation you keep avoiding. The opportunity you keep delaying. The person you keep pushing away. The dream you keep preparing for but never starting. That is usually where the pipe is leaking. Then you ask yourself two questions. What was this protecting me from? And what is it costing me now? Because avoidance may have protected you from embarrassment, but now it's costing you movement. Control may have protected you from uncertainty, but now it's costing you peace. Perfectionism may have protected you from criticism, and now it's costing you progress. Emotional distance may have protected you from disappointment, but now it's costing you connection. That is the solution, not becoming fearless, not becoming a completely different person, just replacing one old protection with one healthier action. Send a message, start the draft, tell the truth a little sooner, let someone get a little closer. Do the imperfect version. Rest without earning it first, one pipe at a time. Because healing is not burning the empire down. It's teaching the bodyguard that the war is over. And once you see that, the story changes. Because the part of you causing the damage may not be your enemy. It may be the youngest part of you, still trying to keep you safe. The saddest part of self-sabotage is that it often starts with the younger version of you trying to stay safe. A version of you that learned not to speak too soon, not to trust too easily, not to want too loudly, not to begin until you were sure you could not be embarrassed. And for a while, that version protected you. But protection that never updates becomes a prison. At some point, the bodyguard has to learn the war is over. So the question is not, why do I keep ruining things? The question is, what part of me is still trying to protect me from a danger I've already survived? And what is one small thing I can do this week that proves I do not need that protection anymore? Because sometimes the enemy is not at the gate. Sometimes it's already in the system. And healing begins when you finally stop drinking from the same pipes that have been poisoning your peace. So ask yourself, where is the lead in my pipes? And what is the first pipe I'm ready to replace?